Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. You guys, is giving Billie Jean is not my what? Billie Jean is not my lover. There's actually a reason I'm dressed like this today. I'm deciding to embrace being more African, and as such, accordingly, I have decided to be wearing my natural hair. Yes, I know a lot of you are confused. A lot of Africans in the group chat are like, "What does she mean? What does she mean? She wants to embrace being African?" Because a lot of Africans, I'm afraid to tell you guys, but a lot of Africans hate being African. And I'm gonna give an example. I recently saw a news media outlet talking about how they have decided. I'm not too sure in the country. I'm gonna put the name of the country here. They've decided to stop that women who want to compete in beauty pageants are not allowed to wear wigs anymore. And the amount of uproar and outrage that was on that made me even look at myself like, damn, Paige, why do you be wearing the wigs? Is there a reason why you wear wigs? It's because I don't want my true self to be seen. And I was like, oh my god, you can wear a wig. Nobody's coming at you for wearing a wig. But for you to wear a wig every day is unreasonable. And that's a great example of how Africans hate themselves. And I now started from there and I really started contextualizing, bringing it down to par. And I landed on Kenyans. And that's what I want us to discuss here today. Why Kenyans in particular hate themselves. And I'm going to use the case study of the acceptance. Why, you thought I forgot? Of Kasmuel McOure. Because the reason you guys loved Kasmuel is not because he was talking about Sijui, the Gen Z movement in a particular way, and he was bringing some crazy strong points. No, you guys liked Kasmuel because you guys don't like yourselves, and the fact that you looked at Kasmuel and you saw a version of yourself that was westernized, that spoke English in a specific manner, that dressed in a specifically westernized manner, but still was able to. You guys were still able to relate because, oh my god, but he's actually Kenyan. That's why you guys liked him, because he represented a more westernized version of yourselves. And so we're going to dive into that. I'm going to hold your nipples and twist today on this video. So if you're not happy with listening to the way you actually need to deconstruct your mental slavery, you can exit out of this video now. But let's get into it. So first things first, before we jump into this, we have to set the scene. We have to set the scene of how this started. When the 2024 finance bill protest started back in June, July, those times. Now these protests were sparked by the fact that Gen Zs and Kenyans at large were feeling oppressed because of the increase in taxation and the increase in cost of living. Kenyans felt that, why are we continuing to pay taxes, and at the end of the day, me in my neighborhood, we still don't have a road. By the Hatuna, we don't have a road that leads up to my house. No, it's just literally dust. So Kenyans started asking themselves, why do we need to keep on paying this stuff? Why do we need to? And at the end of the day, no one had an answer.
Cue the 2024 finance bill protests.
Headless, leaderless, tribeless, cultureless, class. Zote, list them all, any subjective thing that people have been, tribalism, all of these things that have plagued the previous generations and caused us to not being able to come together and fight together were thrown out of the window in lieu of trying to create a better Kenya for us all. With that being said, because of the fact that this was supposed to be leaderless and tribeless, etc., anyone that was trying to poop themselves, be it politician or be it even Gen Zs ourselves, trying to come out and say, me, I know what the Gen Zs want. Can you guys give me a camera? Can you give me a camera? Let me explain and articulate the issues to you guys. Anyone that tried to do that was immediately deplatformed, immediately cancelled, and immediately told, you need to sit this one out and shut up. Because previously, when someone came out, it just caused division, it caused this one against that one, and someone who purported to be the head of Gen Z could easily sell us out. So in the beginning, no one was allowed. If you tried it, I remember that girl that was being celebrated for saying Agwambo usitoke, and then she went to Citizen. Ama sijui she went to start her own political party. She was on Citizen, she was on NTV, sijui KTN. I don't know if she was on NTV, but I'm certain she was on Citizen. I don't know. Yeah, she was on Citizen for sure. She came out and started someone who was very loved, she was very beloved, she was growing so rapidly on TikTok, on Twitter, but then she came out and tried to do up, she's the voice of the Gen Z movement. I think in one clip she said she's the one who basically started it. She was pulled back to hold her horses very fast, quick fast. And this kept on being the case. If you even look at with Kina Boniface Mwangi, all these people, anyone who tried to come out and say, I am the leader of the Gen Zs, or I understand the plight of the Gen Zs, were told to sit this one the hell out. Now, This is the set, this is the stage, this is how the actors are behaving on stage. But surprisingly, when one actor in particular entered the stage, everybody was so okay, all of a sudden having a singular individual or a singular youth voicing and having opinions and being the voice mouthpiece for the Gen Zs. And that one man was Kasmuel McOure, whoever. The man who was branded the tomboy of the Gen Zs, aka the man with the plan, aka Calvo Mistari. Okay, nobody called him Calvo Mistari, but everyone loved Kasmuel. The way Kasmuel spoke, the way I was seeing TikTok edits of Kasmuel, his aura was like, I felt the aura 10 scrolls away, bro. And in the beginning, I must confess, in the beginning, I fell for it. I saw this guy with his suits in a protest, and I didn't stop to ask myself, why is he wearing a suit at a protest? I saw this guy speaking English, has Englished. Mind you, I have a master's in law. But I was like, damn, I'm intimidated by the English. The English is making me shake. And I asked myself, what exactly is it about Kasmuel? Kasmuel made me think about my life and how I was presenting myself. And come to think of it now, it's because as a Kenyan, I have an inherent self-hate from anything that identifies me as a kienyeji, a common wananchi, or as a Kenyan at large. And that's why Kasmuel was able to lie to me. That's why Kasmuel was able to lie to you. And that's why politicians will continue to lie to us and carry us fiblabbed, bomboclad idiot. Now, the first things first that caught people's attention about Kasmuel was his English. Like I said, Kasmuel's English was English from the Queen. I remember videos started trending about him and how he was doing the debate club at Alliance, etc., etc. And looking back now, when I really sit down and I go and listen to those videos, I'm like, there's really nothing this guy has said. He's just using big words for us and he's speaking English in an accent. And I can tell that it's just big words and speaking English in an accent because I can speak English in an accent and I can also use big words. And whenever I've done that on social media, it has been responded to positively by Kenyans. Literally, I remember when I was doing true crime, I would literally be speaking about someone has been brutally murdered, and you guys would be like, your English is so polished, dear. Huh? Like, are you okay? I just told you someone has been murdered. Like, can you guys be FFR right now? And it's that mindset that Kasmuel was able to play on and prey on. Because Kasmuel came to talk about the same thing Akina Agwambog Shori were talking about. He came and he vocalized the Gen Z issue. The same thing all of us were saying on Twitter and on TikTok. He just came and said it with big English, and everyone loved him for it. Whereas they were canceling everyone else who was saying it in a Kenyan accent, who was delivering it like the common quote-unquote Gen Z or common wananchi. Everyone that was saying it as a commoner, quote-unquote, and not in an English accent with big English words, was basically demonized and told to sit down and, oh my God, you think you can lead the Gen Z? Who do you think you are? And it's inherently because Kenyans don't like themselves. You guys don't think you're capable of doing big things. You guys don't think you're capable of leading and having leadership qualities if you don't have these accents. In Kenya, the closer someone is to sounding British or to sounding from the US or to sounding like they're from the US, the more people respond and respect them and their authoritativeness. If I come to you and speak in an English accent in Kenya, it's okay. In fact, I will never forget the fact that I grew up in Zimbabwe, and so I went to a lot of international schools. So by the time I came to Kenya, I spoke English. I remember I was in a matatu. I don't even remember. People told me. I was in a matatu and someone was like literally squishing me, and I'm like, oh my God, can you stop? And everyone in the matatu was like, oh my God, I could have run for president and won because of the accent. I will also never forget, like I said, when I came online and I'm telling you guys someone has been murdered, and you guys are like, oh my God, your accent is so beautiful. It's so amazing. In Kenya, we hate the Kenyanness. Anytime someone speaks in a Kenyan accent, anytime someone identifies as being Kenyan, you all hate it because you hate yourselves, because you view that accent as a sign of poverty, as a sign of struggle, and it links directly to the classism that is involved in Kenya. Classism is another video for another day, but you guys know you're classist. There is a ranking system in Kenya, and anyone who sounds even remotely Kenyan, like the Agwambo Shori and the other people who are trying to vocalize the Gen Z issues, the actual people who can see this issue for what it is, You guys didn't like it, but when Kasmuel comes and says it in big English and articulated, well-sounding English, y'all love him for it. You love him. You love him because you hate yourselves. And anything that reflects remotely different from you, you're gonna accept it, especially if it's westernized. With that being said, let's go on to point number 2 of why Kasmuel was able to lie to me, you, and your dad and your family. It's the dressing style. It's the dressing style. Like I said, again, I didn't grow up in Kenya. I moved to Kenya in 2013. When I came back to Kenya, there was a very distinct way in which the Gen Zs of Lavington and Kileleshwa and, Hurlingham, all those places would dress, and Kitusuru them. There was a ranking system. And the OB look, I had never heard anyone called OB. And I asked, what is an OB? And they're like, it means an ordinary. Guys, can you actually let me know down in the comment section? But I was told that obs are people who wear like the scouts shirt, the scouts hat. They wear like short pants, and they're like dancing odi, dancing mefika machine on odi. Those are like the obs, the odis. And there was this like they're funny, they're cool, and even though they're the majority of Gen Zs in Kenya, people looked at them like the common wananchi. No one really ever wants to associate ob or people who are in that ob culture with any type of intellectualism, any type of authority, like being able to hold authority and being able to articulate themselves in a fantastic way, which is so funny because if we're really talking about cost of living that is really, really oppressing people in Kenya, and if we also look at the majority of the children who are on the streets, a lot of them are very much engrossed in ob culture. A lot of them are very much engrossed in the gengetone culture, etc., etc. But all of a sudden, when it comes to the person who is allowed to talk about these issues, it's not them. They're not the ones getting placed on Citizen TV and on NTV and on KTN. They are relegated to just being able to comment on your post and on Kasmuel's post on TikTok, on the people who are the who's who, the ones who have great westernized style of suits and wearing suits, the ones who can speak English well. Those are the people who are said to be allowed to go and talk about the issues that to a large extent may not even affect them as much. And that's not to say that this cost of living doesn't affect even the upper middle class or even just the upper classes themselves. It does, but it's very unfortunate that the people who actually are suffering the most under that increase in cost of living and increase in taxation are the people who are not seen as intellectual enough to be able to articulate a basic human experience of suffering. So all of us should go to a protest in a suit for us to be taken seriously. All of us should be able to speak in British English for us to be taken seriously. No, it's very, very funny to see. And the funny thing, like I said, these are the majority of Kenyans. And you might argue with me in the comment section that that's not the majority of Kenyans. Almost all of the people I know who can be considered quote unquote ob culture, etc., etc., they listen to gengetone, they partake in that. Gengetone and all of these things are so entrenched in Kenyan culture. This is actually Kenyan culture. This is what we listen to. How many Kenyans do you know that are walking on the streets in CG, I don't know, suits? You don't know them. You don't. How many Kenyans do you know that speak English, who speak English in the way Kasmuel speaks English? You don't know them. You don't. And it's this self-hate of being able to see someone who is really contrasted to you. I saw a podcast where Kasmuel was asked how much his suits are, and he was like, they're extremely expensive. How many Kenyans are going to be able to afford that suit? How many? How many do you know? I can't. I looked up how much a suit is. Bruh! Tell me why they were telling Miss G 4,000 for a full set. Buddha, and it's these like not even classy establishments, like it's not at TCG, a place that is going to you to take you. No, bro, it is expensive to be able to afford that. And it's so funny to me that in a protest about cost of living and how cost of living is killing people, the person who we have platformed is wearing expensive suits to a protest and dancing the Odi dance. It's like the farther you are able to get away from being considered as a common wananchi in Kenya, the more celebrated you are and the more intellectual you're looked at. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Free yourself. Free yourself. Free yourself. Kasmuel lied to you, he lied to me also because of his ability to not look like you or not look like me. You hate the way you dress, that's why you fell in love with him. You hate the way you speak, that's why you fell in love with him. And lastly, you hate where you come from, and that's why Kasmuel was able to fall. To lie to you, lie to me, lie to my mom, lie to your dads, lie to everybody. You hate where you come from. A lot of Kenyans hate being Kenyan. And I say this and I'll give you some context so you guys don't say I'm lying. I come from a relatively upper middle class family. So I went to IGCSE and international schools. The standard there was to aspire to whiteness. The closer you are to whiteness, the more intellectual, like I said, you were, the more relevant you were, the more beautiful you are considered. The thinner you are, the more beautiful you are. The more, your face shape, your cheekbones showed, your nose showed, the better looking you were considered. The lighter skin you were. Those international schools are actually the pits. I'll make a video on it one day, but it's the pits. It's the best breeding ground for classism, colorism, all the bad things that can happen to an African happen in those international schools. And the moral of the story is, in those spaces, being Kenyan is considered as an exotic feature. It's not considered to be a central feature of yourself. And it shows because people aspire to go to the UK. No one at TCG. I recently came to find out that a lot of Kenyans aspire to go to Strathmore. No one in the spaces I came from wanted to go to school at Strathmore. No one in the spaces I came to wanted to go to USIU. And these are places that I saw a trend of people saying like how USIU, Strath, CG Daystar, all of these are really good unis to aspire to. But the places I came from, everyone wanted to go to the UK, everyone wanted to go to the US, everyone wanted to go to Australia, everyone wanted to go to France. So in my mind, and everyone I know is not in Kenya for uni, and it's because being Kenyan was a secondary thing. Being Kenyan was something that you didn't want to be. And now when these people went outside, someone who has tried their best to distance themselves from the Kenyan experience to the degree where they've wanted to go abroad, will go abroad and buy a Kenyan bracelet. Will go abroad and buy a Kenyan bracelet. Explain for 20 marks. But when they were in Kenya, they would never want to be engaging with Kenyans. It was almost something of disgust. I'll never forget that when we moved to Kenya, the place that we were staying in, it was in because I don't want you guys to be my stalkers. But I'll never forget that when the bus from school basically branched into the neighborhood that I stayed in, everyone was laughing at me. And it's not that the neighborhood was bad, it's just that the neighborhood was not Kitusuru. The neighborhood was not Lavington. The neighborhood was filled with a lot of Kenyans. It was too Kenyan. There was nothing bad with that place. It was not insecure, CG word, but it was too Kenyan for their liking. It was like, oh my God, what, you live here? Common people live here, poor people live here. And I am being extremely transparent, but the reason again you guys fluctuated and flocked towards someone like Kasmuel who speaks, who dresses in this particular manner, is because he does not represent where you come from. He doesn't represent the ordinary Kenyan experience. You guys only want to be Kenyan and only want to see Kenyanness reflected to you when you go abroad. And that's why when you go abroad, you want to open a TikTok about CG Kenyans in US. That's why when you go abroad, you want to open a TikTok CG Kenyans in Belgium, CG Kenyan in CG Luxembourg. Because you love to be Kenyan, but Kenyanness is secondary to you being anything else. You would rather be Western before you be a Kenyan. And you only want to be Kenyan when you're abroad, not when you're in Kenya. And that's why politicians who brand themselves in this particular way, where they're Kenyan, but they're more aspired and more closer to whiteness, that's why they will continue to lie to you. That's why Kasmuel lied. And if you get another Kasmuel, he'll do it again. Till you guys learn to love yourselves and learn to like yourselves. Love your Kenyan accent. Love your Kenyan accent. I don't understand why you don't want to speak. I don't even speak like this on a normal basis. A lot of you that like watch my videos previously, this is not, I'm really trying to, I've been trained mentally that whenever I'm speaking out in public, I have to speak in an accent. I have to speak like this, to the point where it's become a secondary nature to me. But I don't want to speak like this, because when I speak like this, I seem like a kienyeji. And then you guys don't take me seriously when I'm speaking like this. But when I speak like this, I don't seem like I'm a kienyeji. And you guys are more likely to listen to what I have to say. So if you think I'm faking the accent, I'm not. The truth of the matter is I have been trained and taught to assimilate, because when I assimilate, I get better results. And so it's just secondary nature now. But anyway, that, guys, has been it from me. Please learn to love yourself as you go into the new week. If you can, wear your afro. If you can, remove the wig. We know it's not your hair. Yeah. Yeah. Don't kill yourself to buy a suit that you can't afford. You're not Kasmuel, and that's okay. Don't engage in useless conversations about how 9 to 5 is not something that Gen Zs can do. Please don't be lied to. You need that 9 to 5. The people telling you that are not in the same Gen Z social, political, and economic bracket as you are, you will quit your job, babe, and you'll be jobless. Okay? Stay woke, stay relevant, stay Kenyan. I'll see you guys next week for my next video. Bye.